Patrick Schumacker, you're one of the developers and writers behind the Harley Quinn series, which is currently streaming on HBO Max. The show has certainly been important for its LGBTQ plus representation, and I was wondering, how did that come to be for this show?
Well, fortunately, we had a massive amount of canonical comic book material to work from and to base this on. And historically, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy have had a relationship, a romantic partnership, along with being partners in literal crime and all that. And so it felt like, even when we pitched the show, we had talked about doing it like right out of the gate. But it felt like in the zeitgeist, like early on, it was all about, Harley emancipating herself from the Joker and kind of focusing on her vocation as a supervillain and wanting to make a name for herself. And so the first season really, really focused on, we pitched it like it's Mary Tyler Moore if Mary were a psychopath. And so it's very much like about her career, and it feels like a workplace comedy. And so it was very much Harley focused on rising up through the ranks of the criminal underbelly of Gotham and basically beating the Joker. And she was very focused on sort of, having revenge on her ex that way and kind of coming into her own. And then when season 2 came about, very early on in that season, we started talking about, well, okay, Harley kind of got what she wants, career-wise, but like, what does she really want? Like, who is going to make her happy? What's going to make her happy? And so from, early stages in season 2, we started to seed in that she had these feelings for Poison Ivy, who was always sort of, she was like the member at large in Harley's crew. She never wanted to be sort of an official member of the crew. Like, they were best friends, but, Harley's kind of this annoying puppy dog at the same time. But we started to seed in that Harley was having feelings for Ivy. Ivy was having feelings for Harley, all the while complicated by Ivy's heteronormative relationship with Kite Man, who was a very unexpected sort of romantic partner for her. He started off being kind of like just a douchebag, like D-list supervillain, but he like slowly like won Ivy over, and he was kind of cute and he treated her well, and he was safe. And that was the thing that like was keeping Harley and Ivy from being together, was that Harley was this kind of force of chaos. Ivy was sort of the Cameron Fry to Harley's Ferris Bueller, and so she just she wanted safety, she wanted sort of predictability, but all the while she kind of deep down knew that she was in love with Harley. And so it was really interesting doing the show in a vacuum as we did. We were picked up for 26 episodes right out of the gate for DC Universe, which at the time that we were picked up, like the network itself like hadn't even dropped. And so nobody really knew what to expect. And so, season 1 came out and the fans dug it. And we had already written and pretty much produced all of season 2, where we had this LGBTQ relationship that was going to come like full force, but we couldn't say anything. And a lot of the fans, it was a real nail biter for us, because it felt like we were just pissing people off, because they were just waiting for this thing to happen. And it felt like we were kind of baiting them, and they were worried that we were going to bait and switch them. And so it was such a relief when it finally happened and, culminated in the end of season 2, where, now Harley and Ivy are in a full-fledged romantic partnership, and the payoff was there. And so we just had to, just sit on our hands for about a year, like waiting, just telling people, just please bear with us, please. So it's exciting that finally happened. And it's very meaningful in ways that I will never know. But, just what I've been able to glean from the reactions of so many people on social media and beyond is that it is very important. And it fills me with great joy that we were able to tell this story and represent these characters in this way, as they are not always represented in other media. So yeah, it is my understanding that this is the first time that this has been done with these characters in a television or film, for that matter. So it was a real honor to be able to do that.
One of the things that really stands out about the show also is the incredible cast that you've put together here, including Kaylee Cuoco, Lake Bell, Alan Tudyk, Tony Hale, J.B. Smoove. How did this cast come together?
Well, yeah, we were very lucky. When we landed Kaylee and Lake, I think that just lent a legitimacy to this. This was sort of Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers Animation has this amazing legacy of animation, but it's mostly kind of youth driven, and I think this was the first foray into something that was a hard R rating if it were a feature film. It's hard TVMA if we're talking in TV ratings terms, and so I think it was like a big swing but people didn't quite know what to think of it initially. I don't even think the executives at Warner Brothers knew what to think of it initially, and so once we had sat down with Kaylee and convinced her that this was something that she might want to do. And I mean, she was gung-ho about it from the beginning. Actually, it did not, to her credit, she did not take much convincing. I think this was just like maybe such a departure from what she had been doing the last 12 years in The Big Bang Theory. Like it was just exciting. And, maybe there's also just that freedom that comes with being like a voice in something. And there is a little bit of protection if there is any like trepidation as far as, the creative of it all. But once we signed Kaylee on as an actor, and she's also an executive producer, her company, Yes Norman, executive produces the show, it just sort of was this snowball effect. And then also, we've been blessed with working with a bunch of actors over the years in live action space, like Alan Tudyk, Ron Funches, and then Dean Lorey, who also co-ran the show with us, worked on Arrested Development a couple of seasons. And so Tony Hale, Jessica Walters did a guest spot as Granny Goodness and Kite Man's mom. So he also, and Wanda Sykes as well, who was the Queen of Fables. They all were sort of in Dean's relationships that he was able to bring. So we kind of Voltroned together a super cast, and it was that and luck.
So you recently had two new showrunners come onto the show. Chrissy Petrosh, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and Jessica Goldstein, to take the place of Dean Lorey. How did they come to be the new showrunner, the new co-showrunners?
Yeah, we worked with Chrissy and Jess a while back on season 4 of Cougar Town. That's where we all met, and we just stayed. We were fast friends. We maintained a relationship with them, and yeah, that we have been trying to work with them for like 7 years, and it just never works out. They've either they've got something going on, and we've got something going on, and then finally the timing worked. So yeah, we made that happen finally, and we thought it was important to us to continue to try and build out female writers on the show. I mean, we've been lucky to have a ton of amazing female writers on the show, but as you might know with animation, it can be kind of a revolving door with writing staffs, as if other shows come along that are live action Writers Guild stuff, it's just sometimes that money is very appealing. So we have been lucky in just sort of we will end up with a lot of like open seats and then writers who fill them. But we thought that we wanted to fill Dean's open seat with a female co-showrunner if we could, and we ended up getting 2 of them.
Have you decided on which episode from season 2 you're planning on submitting to Emmy voters?
Yes. So, that episode is our season 2 finale, Something Borrowed, Something Green. And, like I was saying before, it was this culmination of this kind of slow burn of Harley and Ivys, inevitable, kind of inexorable draw toward each other as romantic partners. And, it's as with a lot of finales, it takes place at a wedding. It's Poison Ivy's wedding to Kite Man, which is then busted up by a sting operation headed up by Commissioner Gordon, voiced by Chris Maloney, who is making a very cynical play to run for mayor, and he gets a tip from Two-Face that this wedding is happening. He gets and when and where, and so he's going to bust it because the guest list is a who's who of all of the supervillains in Gotham City, and he's going to pull him in, haul him in one fell swoop, and make that splash that's going to be the platform on which he runs for mayor. And at that point in the show, Harley and Ivy are actually, like, at the beginning of the episode, they're kind of on the outs because it has come out that Ivy kind of strayed momentarily from Kite Man. There was a Bachelorette episode that happened earlier where she and Harley hooked up, and it didn't go over too well. I mean, it was great while it happened, but then there were a lot of regrets, a lot of guilt, and Ivy finally drew a line in the sand and said, I owe it to Kite Man to do this, but it wasn't really what her heart wanted. And so, by the end of the episode, through this, the chaos of this police shootout and this getaway, which I love it as just a comic book geek, as a fan of Batman the Animated Series. We had Harley and Ivy in the car that Harley and Ivy drove together the first time they met in Batman the Animated Series, which has been nicknamed Rosebud, I think, by the fans. I don't know if that's canonical, but we have them, driving away almost like Thelma and Louise style, but still alive. As the police chase them while the character of Clayface is singing Cielo e Mar. It's this big heavy, like, opera moment, and during the getaway, Ivy is finally able to say, like, I love you, Harley, in that way, and they kiss and they drive off into the sunset, and it tees up a season 3, which sees them now as full-fledged lovers, partners in every which way.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back for our panel later on.